Imagine giving a total stranger just a pair of slippers. Now, imagine that same stranger showing up later, not as who you thought they were, but as someone who could change your entire life. This is the story of Fatima, a roadside corn seller, a pair of slippers, and the miracle she never saw coming. So, grab your chin-chin, settle in, and let's dive into this powerful, kind story. A long time ago, in one dry corner of a town called Maiduguri, there lived a woman whose life was harder than her roasted corn. Her name was Fatima, but people at the junction called her Hajiyawa Kikon, because from morning till night, she sat by the roadside, roasting corn with firewood, smoke, and pure determination. She wasn't rich. In fact, poverty held her like wrapper. But she had something richer than money. She had Buka, a husband, and 5 sharp children who knew how to laugh even when their bellies were empty. If you passed her corner and didn't see her squatting beside her broken umbrella, just know the world had shifted. Fatima didn't have much in this life, but she had her firewood, she had corn, 5 hungry children, and a husband whose waist was always bent under one vulcanizing jack or the other. They didn't have a house. They only had one room which had no ceiling and no tiles. When it rained, they didn't run inside. They ran to get buckets. And what of their shop? If you call it a shop, people might look at you weirdly. It was just one old umbrella and 3 mud blocks that posed as chairs beside the main road. That's where Fatima roasted corn, with smoke always dancing in her eyes and her wrapper never properly tied because of sweat. But she was happy, or at least she was content. Her husband Buka worked just beside her under one crooked palm tree. He was a vulcanizer, but the kind that had to knock every tire like he was checking if he had secrets inside. His tools were older than Nigerian's item, but he too was trying. Every evening, the two of them would sit beside each other, counting 100 naira notes like it was foreign currency, laughing at life like he hadn't already beaten them from head to toe. One hot Thursday afternoon, when the sun was burning like he had personal beef with the whole of Maiduguri, Fatima was by the road, fanning her corn with one broken tray. Her wrapper had shifted again, but she didn't have strength to fix it. Her mind was already boiling from calculating how to split 1 cup of garri among her 5 children when they got home. Just as she turned her last corn, she saw something that made her pause. A woman who was barefooted, with a hair that was scattered like someone that quarreled with breeze and lost the fight. Her eyes were swollen, her face was dusty, and she was walking like her soul was dragging her body behind it. People were passing like she was invincible. Some turned their face, others hissed. One woman even muttered, maybe her husband pursue am. These slave queens these days, they too stubborn. But Fatima looked again, and something in her chest just pinched her. She called out softly, "Auntie, come and sit down. The sun is too much. Come." The woman stopped. She looked like she didn't expect anybody to speak to her, not to talk of to show her kindness. She walked over slowly and sat on one of the blocks. She was barefooted. Her legs were dirty. Her feet looked like they had been walking since last year. Fatima didn't ask questions. She just went to her small nylon bag, brought out 900 naira, the last change she had for the day, and told her daughter, Rahila, go buy one slippers. Buy better one, oh, not the one that cuts when you cough. And the girl ran off to buy slippers. The woman was silent. She was looking at Fatima like a ghost, amazed at how kind-hearted she was. Few minutes later, Rahila returned with the slippers, a new, clean, blue and white slippers. Fatima then knelt down and placed it gently by the woman's feet. Try this one. I hope it fits. The woman wore it slowly. Then she looked at Fatima again, and just like that, she started crying. Proper crying, no, not the one with dignity, no, the one with mucus and small shivers. Fatima quickly handed her a tissue paper from her corn bag and said, Auntie, abeg, don't cry here. People will think I beat you. Okay, please stop crying. The woman laughed shakily. Then she wiped her eyes, brought out a piece of paper from her wrapper, and scribbled something down. She folded it twice and gave it to Fatima and said, This is my number. Please, call me. I would like to see you again. Fatima simply collected it and said, No wahala. Oh, go home and rest more, yeah? It go better. The woman looked at her again, like she wanted to say something more, but she didn't. She stood up, wiped her face properly, and walked away quietly. Fatima tucked the paper into her wrapper and dusted her palms. To her, it was just another day, just another woman in need. And as usual, Fatima had given what she had, even if it was all she had. She turned her last corn and called out to a customer. Oga, this one sweet well, oh. Even goats fit buy am. And just like that, life moved on. The next morning, Fatima woke up before the muezzin could finish shouting, Assalamu alaikum. She yawned, tied her wrapper anyhow, and went outside to check the maize she soaked in the big black basin for pap. She roasted early that day. Puka was still snoring like he swallowed generator. The children were all curled up on one mat like sardines. By 7 a.m., she was already at her spot by the road, her firewood burning and smoke rising like prayer. As she found her corn, she remembered the strange barefoot woman from yesterday. She thought about her face and the way she cried when she got the slippers. Fatima shook her head and said to herself, Oh, poor woman. If he be say they beat am, or her husband pursue her without looking back. She touched the edge of her wrapper where the woman had tucked a folded paper. She said I should call her ba. So, no wahala. But the truth is that Fatima didn't feel pressured. She had bigger problems, like the fact that her small technophone had refused to come on since last week. She charged it, it blinked, but after the second no, it went black again, like someone fainting. Later that day, she said to Buka, This your children don't break my phone, no. I go throw away all of them. Buka laughed from under his tire shade. Abeg, which phone? The one that already has crack like River Niger. If the phone was a person, he would have entered retirement home since. They both laughed. I need to fix it. But mechanic for phone is money. Me that is looking for money to buy garri with. So, the folded number stayed there where it was, inside her wrapper flap, and folded more and more each time she sat down. Out of sight, out of mind. That evening, while they ate akam and masa, Rahila, her daughter, asked, Mommy, who was that woman you bought slippers for? Fatima drank her pap and replied, Just somebody that life slapped. She was barefoot and I pitied her. Will she pay you back? Ah, my dear, pay me for what? Is it loan? I gave it to God, though. If God likes, He should refund me. If he doesn't like, let him put it in my heaven account. The children laughed, including Bello, the little one who always sucked his thumb like it was meat. Days turned into weeks, and corn sales slowed down. The rain was coming. Smoke would rise from the fire, but the customers would not rise from their beds. Fatima began roasting with less and less hope by the day. Her technophone was still dead, and the number was still folded inside one wrapper, or maybe lost while washing. She honestly didn't care, because to her, the barefooted woman was just another sad face in the crowd, another stranger she helped and moved on from. That's the thing about life when you're poor. You don't chase mystery, you chase survival. And Fatima, she was chasing firewood, garri, and enough money for food. The rest was actually God's business. One cold morning, Buka was feeling some sort of chest heaviness. Then, not long after, cough started. At first, it was small, like a polite visitor. Then, it became stubborn, like house rent. At first, Fatima didn't take it too seriously. It's cold, eh? Just take this wrapper and cover your chest well. This early morning breeze, it has wahala, she said, handing him a wrapper. But by evening, Buka was sweating and shaking like somebody they poured river water on. He couldn't eat. His eyes were dull and his hands were weak. Fatima boiled herbs. She grounded ginger and soaked it in hot water. She mixed salt and palm oil and forced him to swallow it like medicine. But that didn't work. She whispered a prayer and held his hand through the night. The next day, he couldn't go to the tire shed. That was when she became afraid. They had never been rich, but they had always been together. Where you saw Fatima, you saw Buka. Beside her corn smoke, teasing her about burnt maize, handing her change, watching the children. He was her strength, even when he had nothing in his pocket. He was the kind of man who would starve and still smile kindly. So, watching him lie there, quiet, weak, and breathing like it was hurting him, made Fatima's chest heavy with worry. She ran to the chemist and begged the old man who sold paracetamol by the junction. Please, Oga, just help me. I don't have money now, but I will pay as soon as I have it. My husband is not getting up, walai. He gave her tablets and said maybe it was malaria and typhoid. But the tablets didn't do nothing. Buka didn't still open his eyes and mouth properly to swallow them. That night, Fatima sat beside him on their mat. The children were asleep, and the oil lamp flickered. Outside, the rain had started, slow, heavy, and unbothered by her panic. Then, she held his hands, but he felt colder than usual. Buka, she whispered, please say something. Open your eyes. You are the only one I have in this world, though. He opened his eyes just a little, like it was too much work. And then, in the softest voice she had ever heard from him, he said, no worry, my wife. God the watch. And just like that, he closed his eyes. He didn't shake. He didn't struggle. He just stopped breathing. At first, Fatima thought he was asleep, so she waited. After a while, she whispered again, Buka. There was no answer. She then touched his face. It was cold. She touched his chest and listened to it. It was just still. That was when the scream came out of her, raw and jagged, like someone torn from inside her throat. She didn't plan to scream. It just happened, like a flood breaking a dam. She screamed and shook him. She slapped his shoulder. She begged him to wake up. She held his face and cried, "Don't do this to me, Buka. Not now. Not like this." The children woke up, confused. Bello started crying because he didn't know why his mother was shouting. Rahila sat up and whispered, "Mommy, what happened to Baba?" Fatima couldn't answer because how do you explain that your only helper is gone? The next day was a blur. They borrowed money to buy white cloth for the burial. Their neighbors came, some prayers were said, and just like that, Buka was buried. People patted her back and said things like, "Take heart, be strong, Fatima. May Allah strengthen you." Life continues. But in the midst of everything happening, all Fatima could hear was silence. Even with all the people around, her ears only heard Buka's last breath. Her eyes only saw the way his hands went still. That night, when everyone had gone, she sat on their mat and stared at the corner where his slippers used to be. It was empty. And for the first time since she married him, Fatima felt completely alone. 3 days later, she was back on the road, not because she was ready, but because her children were hungry. There was no corn to sell anymore. Corn season had ended together with her happiness. So, she put groundnuts in small nylons, borrowed a tree, wore her oldest wrapper, and stood under the sun shouting, "Groundnuts! Buy sweet groundnuts! Even if your heart is broken, this one will sweet you and heal your heart." She smiled at strangers, but her chest was heavy. She counted change, but her fingers were shaking. And every time she passed a tire shed, she looked away quickly. It was too much pain. Meanwhile, in a different part of the city, Zuwaira, the barefooted woman from the road, was seated in her air-conditioned living room. She had not forgotten Fatima. Every time she passed a roasted corn seller, she slowed down. Every time she saw someone with faded wrapper, she looked closely. Until one day, she told her driver, "Take me back to that road again. I need to find her." But as has been the case for the countless times they had been there, the umbrella was gone. The firewood spot was cold. Nobody knew where the corn woman had gone. Even Alkali, the village radio man, when asked, shook his head and said, "That corn woman, she no dey come again no. She just vanish. Maybe corn finish, or maybe life push her go somewhere else. You know say country hard." So Zuwaira kept searching, kept returning to the spot, hoping to see her one day. Meanwhile, Fatima didn't die, even though grief choked her every night and the silence in her room sounded like their landlord's old Volkswagen. She still woke up. She still bathed her children with cold water and still filled her tray with groundnuts in small nylons, tied tightly, one spoon short of complete, so as to make small profits. Because life doesn't just stop when your heart breaks, especially when you are a mother. You just have to keep pushing. One very hot afternoon, as if the sun returned to Maiduguri with vengeance. But Fatima stood under it with her tray on her head, her lips dry as dried tiger nuts, her scarf soaked with sweat, and her voice fading as she shouted, "Groundnuts wey sweet oh, e dey cure heartbreak and hunger together." People would laugh, buy one nylon and walk away. Some pitied her, while some Danes looked twice. One man tried to price her groundnuts like he was negotiating land. "How much for 3? He asked. 150, sir," she said. "Ah, Hajiya, Walai, I go change them for you. Reduce am now. I get am for 100 naira gaskia. She looked at him from head to toe and replied calmly, Haba oga, oya, buy the groundnut in your dream, okay? You fit pay only 5 naira for that side. Even though things were hard, her spirit refused to break completely. There was a part of Fatima that still believed that Allah was watching. Maybe quietly, maybe from a distance, but he was definitely watching. Every day, she whispered before leaving the house, Yar Allah, if you won't give me plenty, just give me one surprise, even if it's small. One surprise that will cancel all this pain. She didn't know that her prayer had already been answered, but the answer wasn't ready to show its face yet. Zuwaira, on the other side of the city, was growing restless. She had told everyone in her house about the woman who gave her slippers. The housemaids, her PA, her cook, even the security man. But nobody understood what she was saying. Zuwaira, may we just forget it now? Her friend told her one afternoon. Anybody can buy and give slippers. People do that every day. But Zuwaira shook her head. No, you don't understand. This particular woman gave me her last card. She didn't ask questions. She just took pity on me and thought it kind to help. She stood by her window and looked outside, fingers switching to move. I need to find her. I really need to find her. So she returned to the same road again. Her convoy parked at the junction. She wore jeans and a plain t-shirt and left her makeup light. She stood beside the same tire shade, squinting into the sun. She asked a boy selling sachet water, and he pointed to Alkali and said, That keke man knows everybody. Go and ask him. So when she went to ask Alkali again, he was thrilled to see her. Ah, big madam, welcome again. Sorry, what are we finding today? The calm woman, the one who gave me slippers that day, the one that her husband pumps tires. Have you heard of where they might have gone to? Alkali scratched his belly and made a sound like he was trying to remember history. She no come here again since corn finish. One rumor say her husband die. Another one say she sell groundnuts now. Oh, where? Zuwaira asked quickly. He shrugged. Haba, madam. If it be market, if it be park, if it be main road, this Maiduguri big like fat woman. People disappear every day. Me sef, I don't know for sure. Zuwaira sighed and left. She entered her car and sat quietly for a while. Then she turned to her driver and said, I don't care how big the city is. We'll find her. Back in the market square, under one rusted zinc roof, Fatima stood, selling groundnuts. She had no idea that someone had been there asking about her all this while. She just stood, sweating, smiling weakly, and whispering a prayer as she adjusted her tray. Allah, remember me, oh, remember me, oh. And guess what? He did. He was only waiting for the right moment. Because when God decides to write a plot twist, he takes his time. But when it lands, even the ground will shake. That day, the sun was already misbehaving when Fatima stood at her usual spot beside the park. Her tray was balanced on her head like a trophy of survival. Her feet hurt, and her back felt like it needed a mechanic. But she was still shouting like a champion. Groundnut! Sweet groundnut! If your husband is stressing you, just chew one of these. One in the morning, one in the night. People laughed. Some stopped to buy. Some just shook their heads and kept walking. But Fatima didn't care. She had mastered the art of selling pain with jokes. But then, across the road, a black jeep rolled up slowly. The windows were tinted. The AC was humming. In fact, it looked like money itself was driving the car and not a person. Fatima didn't notice. She was trying to stop Bello from chasing a goat that was chewing her empty nylons. Bello, come back here. Must you pursue everything that has legs? Suddenly, the jeep door opened and a woman stepped out. She was wearing plain t-shirts, clean jeans, flat sandals, and minimal makeup. She looked at Fatima. Fatima looked at her. They stared at each other for a few seconds, like two people playing ameball with their eyes. Then, the woman smiled and said softly, "Do you remember me?" Fatima narrowed her eyes, squinting hard like a suspicious aunt at a wedding. "Ah, wait oh, your face looks familiar. Are you the woman they slapped in that viral video?" The woman laughed. "No, I'm the woman you gave slippers to." Fatima kept quiet. Her head was already calculating, trying to remember the incident. Then she shook her head and said, "Slippers. Kai, so sorry ma, I don't remember you." Zuwaira explained how she looked on that day and how Fatima had called her to one side to help her out and how she cried like a baby after receiving the help. Then, Fatima's mouth dropped open like a faulty umbrella. "Eh? Slippers? That day, you were barefoot? You? Was that you? How?" "Yes, it was me," Zuwaira said calmly. Ha! 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 Fatima dropped her tray and her granules scattered like revolution. "Ah! Yar Allah! Come and see oh! Bello! Rahila! Come here, come and see this auntie oh!" She held the woman's hand like it was gold. "Auntie, wallahi, I thought maybe you ran mad that day or husband chased you come off for house. I just pitied you small." "I know, that's why I came back. You didn't know me, but you helped me. Now it's my turn," Zuwaira said, laughing. By this time, Alkali, the keke driver, had parked beside them, mouth open and wide like catfish. "Is this Nollywood or real life?" Fatima ignored him. She was busy trying to gather her spilled granules with one hand, while holding Zuwaira's arm, like she might disappear again. "Auntie, where have you been? I lost your number oh. My phone got spoiled. I even forgot sef." Zuwaira smiled. "Kai, but I didn't forget you, my dear Fatima." She then turned to the driver and said, "Let's go. Fatima is coming with us." Inside the car, Fatima couldn't stop looking around though. She took her children with her, of course. And she said, "Ha! AC, inside car. It be like cold room. If I stay here too long, my sweat might carry me to court for betrayal." The children were shocked too, especially Rahila, upon seeing the homeless woman they helped, looking all good and wealthy. Even Bello stopped sucking his thumb. He was holding the car door tightly on their way, like it was going to fly away. Rahila whispered, "Mommy, is this auntie an angel?" Fatima patted her on her head and said, "If she was, then heaven has remembered us." Then they got to Zuwaira's house. There was a big gate, a very tall fence, with flowers that were greener than common sense. When the security man opened the gate, Fatima gasped, "Kai, are we entering a hotel?" The compound was so clean, even dust refused to enter. Inside the house was cool, scented and peaceful. She saw a chandelier and whispered, "Happa, even Light is wearing wedding gown." And Zuwaira laughed so hard. She gave them food, real food, not soaked gari, not pap without sweetener, but rice and actual meat, salad, and one juice that tasted like orange and plenty blessing. After the children finished eating, they held their stomach in satisfaction, laughing and gisting with joy. Fatima sat at the edge of the chair. Her hands were shaking with shock and disbelief. I still don't understand, Ma. Why are you doing all this? Zuwaira took her hand and smiled. Because one day, when I had nothing, you gave me your last money and a pair of slippers. You gave me dignity. You gave me hope. I wasn't poor, but I was at a point in my life where the top felt lonely. So I decided to go for an experiment. I was testing the world, and you passed. Fatima's mouth opened widely, but words refused to come out. Her chest tightened, and tears flowed freely. For the first time in months, she cried. But this time, it wasn't from pain. It was from relief and joy. And that was how Fatima's story changed. She didn't go back to the roadside, not because she was too proud, but because life had finally shifted. The tree, the firewood, the daily struggle under the sun, especially the insults, it all ended the day she stepped into that black jeep with her children and followed Zuwaira home. Zuwaira didn't just give her food and hugs and a big speech. She rearranged Fatima's life from the ground up. She paid for the children's school fees after putting them in proper schools. I mean, schools with desks that didn't wobble and toilets that actually flushed. She gave Fatima a proper house, 2-bedroom flat, tiled floor, mosquito nets and fans. And most importantly, she gave her back her dignity, reminding her that she wasn't alone in this world. Zuwaira set up a big grains and provision store for her in a small shopping complex, not too far from the main road. This time, there were no umbrellas, no torn nylon bags, no cracked measuring cups, and definitely no firewood smoke. This shop was different. This one is an actual shop with shelves, fans, lights, and even a little office space with a chair that didn't creak and sing. The name on the signboard was Fatima's Flame, and then under it, in small writing, read, Where kindness and blessing meet. The first day Fatima opened that shop, she stood by the door with her eyes closed for some seconds. Then she whispered, Ya Allah, look at my life. She wasn't wearing her usual faded wrapper that day. She wore a clean wrapper, 2-piece Ankara that looked very neat and presentable. Before long, customers were already waiting outside. She wiped her face quickly and smiled. Auntie, you want maize or millet? And just like that, business had started. As for her children, they were loving their new schools. Rahila got new uniforms and started using pen instead of pencil. Bello stopped chasing goats and sucking his thumb and started using lunchbox like a big boy. Aisha began reading storybooks that made her giggle. The kids laughed more, ate better, and slept deeper. Life had finally smiled at them. But even with her new life, Fatima didn't forget. She didn't start forming accents. She didn't start calling people my darling on WhatsApp. She remained simple, soft-spoken, and very grateful. She had one ritual she does monthly, and quietly, she would go to the market and buy 20 new pairs of slippers. Then she would look for people who needed them. Children walking barefoot, women with slippers tied with rope, or boys who shared one slippers with their siblings. She didn't say much when she gave them out. She would just smile and say, take it, and may God remember you like he remembered me. One day, Zuwaira invited Fatima to a women's foundation event. The kind of events that had fancy crowd, tall gele, and people that wore expensive perfumes. There was going to be microphones and media in that event as well. But Fatima almost refused. What will I wear, ma? What will I say? Me that just knows how to roast corn. Oh." But Zuwaira told her, your story is more powerful than anything you could wear, and many people need to be encouraged by it. That night, in a big hall filled with women who had forgotten what it meant to struggle, Zuwaira stood on stage and told the truth. I had everything. Hell, I am a billionaire. But I didn't have peace. I felt very empty and lonely. So I left my house one day, barefoot, broken, pretending to be poor, just to see what the world looked like from the bottom, just to see if poor people actually helped people. Everyone ignored me. Some insulted me. Some crossed to the other road. But one woman who had nothing called me into the shade of her old umbrella and used her last 900 naira to buy me slippers, with no questions asked and no conditions applied. That woman changed my life, my perspective. She gave me a reason to truly live, and I came back to change hers. Then she turned and called out, please, welcome, Fatima. Fatima walked slowly to the stage. She held the mic with two hands and looked around. The hall was too quiet. Even the air paused for a while. Then she smiled gently and said, I didn't know she was a rich woman. That day, I just saw someone walking barefoot and I helped. That's all. She looked down for a second, then looked back up. I gave slippers, but God gave me a story. My word to you today is, don't wait till you have millions before you help. Sometimes it's the small help you give that unlocks the biggest doors in your life. After her speech, there was little silence, then came clapping and cheering. Some stood up, some nodded, some bowed their heads like they were thinking about their own lives. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Fatima sat outside her house under the moonlight, holding a new pair of slippers in her lap. Rahila sat beside her, chewing roasted groundnuts. Mommy, why do you always buy slippers for strangers? Fatima looked at her daughter and smiled. She didn't rush the answer. She gently said, because the day I gave slippers to one stranger, God gave me everything else. The end. Okay, Naya Padis, we have come to the end of this one. What did you learn from Fatima's story? As for me, I learned that you don't have to wait until you have plenty before you help others. Sometimes the small help you give in silence is what God uses to open loud blessings in your life. Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way back to you, even when you least expect it. So give, be kind. You don't have to expect anything in return. Just be kind from your heart, and everything else will fall into place. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please leave me a comment in the comment section below. You all know I love reading from you, right? Please don't forget to like this story. Your girl went all out for this one, so please show me some love, okay? Share this story with everyone you know because they're going to learn a thing or two from it. I am Naya, and this is a story about kindness. Remember, don't let anyone dim your shine. Until next time. Bye.